I'm Dr. Tracy Panara, and you are with us at EarthX. I'm here with my friend Shelby Thomas, a fellow Gator and a conservationist. She has done so much amazing work, and I'm so excited to have you here and excited to tell everybody or share with everybody what you're doing now.
Amazing to be here. Thanks for having me, Tracy.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so tell me a little bit, what got you started on your path with science?
You know, I really say just keeping curiosity, right?
Yeah.
I grew up Daytona Beach, Florida, surfing and diving and in the water as much as I could, but also just immersed in nature with horses and fishing and you name it. And I had always been curious of going into marine biology, marine science, but also loved medicine. And so actually when I started out at UF, I studied secondary metabolites from corals for their anti-cancer properties that could be used in medicine.
Yeah.
And really in 2014, joined the scientific diving program and was monitoring our reef track and doing science on the secondary metabolites. And at the end of 2014, we had the stony tissue loss disease hit.
Right.
And so I firsthand saw the degradation of these reef ecosystems and ended up shifting my whole career to restoration and protecting these precious corals that can quite literally save humanity in so many ways.
And that's the thing, right? You saw that firsthand because you were looking at a human application of something found only in coral reefs, right? That it was saving human lives. And you were seeing how we can basically completely destruct these things that are saving people's lives.
Well, and there's just, you know, the part that really made me curious about the ocean is it's so underexplored, right?
Right.
We know more about space than our own oceans. And we have such an opportunity to learn and really be able to see how not only these, you know, we look at this as resources, and in a sense that's to use, right? And extractive. And not only do we have so much to learn, but so much to discover that we can really build upon humanity for medicine, for technology, for all different applications, right? I always say for space exploration, right? You want to learn about space? Well, look at coral reefs. They're the initial astronomers of the ocean, using the tides and the moon to settle and colonize for one place their whole life. What can we learn from that, right?
Wow.
What can we learn from these incredible animals that move thousands of meters of depths and those pressure differentials, right? What can we learn about that for transportation? And so I really think we're now at such an incredible time to be alive, you know, with all the advancements in technology at our fingertips and the convergence of all these spaces to be very intentional about how we can live with nature, but also learn from it, right? Nature does it best. If we leave nature alone, it thrives, it multiplies, it, you know, regenerates. And I think it's our job, and, you know, I've now really evolved through my career to be really nature's engineering arm. Like, how can I help assist strategically putting nature and helping restore these ecosystems, but go beyond restoration to regenerate them?
Yeah. When people say nature-based solutions, because that's a real big like buzz phrase right now, and there's a lot of resources going towards that because I think that people are starting to realize that that's the direction that we need to go for our foundation of everything that we depend on to survive.
Absolutely. You know, and that means a lot of things, right? I think some of these buzzwords, as you mentioned, have trended, and as we see is, you know, working in ocean policy a lot. Getting these really needed focus points. And I think we are at a time now where people are really remembering, like, yeah, let's kind of get back to the basics. Let's realize how protection has been done for hundreds of years. And let's work with nature, not against it. And so there's so many incredible solutions now for scaling using mangroves for coastal protection and storm surge reduction, right? Oysters, coral reefs, seagrasses. You know, I'm speaking more on the ocean side, but there's so many applications when you go even to terrestrial, where really strategic placement and looking at how the natural environment has evolved and has protected and interacted with humanity throughout time. Like, let's put it back. Let's give it a kickstart.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so this is Very inspiring, and you've been inspired by all the things that you've seen and the solutions that you really feel are our direction. How have you taken that and applied it towards your mission of building business models for the environment?
Yeah, what's funny is, so I started my nonprofit Ocean Rescue Alliance International the first year of my PhD program. And to be frank, I started a nonprofit as a scientist because I just thought that's what you do if you want to start doing restoration or conservation. And what I quickly realized is, one of the unique aspects of our work, and I had got to a point in my scientific career working with leading 40 different restoration projects, from seagrass, mangroves, oysters, and corals, of course, my favorite. But quickly realized I could spend my whole life doing this impactful work and make meaningful change in restoration. But until we really shift people's hearts to connect with nature, we're not going to create a long-term mindset shift to protect it. And I ended up meeting an artist who wanted to put corals on a mermaid sculpture. And he reached out to every coral scientist in South Florida, throughout Florida, and a majority of them were just like, get out of town, buddy. Like, that's not happening. And, I knew we couldn't put coral on that mermaid because they're endangered and there's a lot of regulation that goes around it. But
mermaids are endangered?
The corals, but mermaids too. We got to protect
Sorry,
them.
I had to.
But, he cared about coral. So I said, I'll have a coffee with him. And through that conversation, I was like, well, maybe we can use the mermaid sculpture to fundraise for real coral restoration.
Yeah.
And better yet, I thought further of maybe we could design an artificial reef to more closely mimic natural reef structure.
Right.
I could probably get coral on that next to the mermaid.
Right.
And that's how this nonprofit started. And I quickly fell in love and learned about using art as a tool for connection.
Oh, yeah.
And not just that, to get people interested and curious about the ocean, but as a way to actually finance creatively restoration. And that really, all of our work started from this approach of using art as a tool and a finance mechanism. And now that's really turned into such a business model of our work, but also other applications of artificial reefs for coastal defense. We have structures that reduce 75% of wave energy.
Yeah.
And we have structures that strictly create homes for fish that mimic natural reef geology. And the stuff that I nerd out and love is creating attachments to industrially scale restoration. So we can screw in a coral just like a light bulb, helping outplant hundreds of corals all over our structures. Same for mangroves and oysters. And so that's really opened up a whole application of how we can actually build business models for nature, right? Through design, through creative solutions, through supporting the economy through ecotourism.
Right.
And it gives us a strategy to approach stakeholders as hotels or municipal agencies, a creative way to get them engaged with actually creating a solution and being part of it.
Yeah. I mean, this is why they added the A, right? In STEM. Now it's STEAM, because that art is really a vehicle for the science and technology and math, and I love it because so many people would assume that the art would take you away from the, ability to be economically, impactful, but you have found a way to actually make it work, to take the art and have the art be the monetary value, which is amazing. I love it. It's super cool.
And I think it's really, I view art as kind of that engagement piece, right? It's kind of, at first, the catchy part that gets people's attention, but then it actually changes the relationship of how people value those resources in nature, right? It allows an opportunity to connect and experience it, and then recognize the value of what that coral reef provides, or what that habitat for the fish provides, coastal protection. And so it gives us the ability to have conversations with people that might not engage with marine restoration. From even sports teams, for example. We've mostly done a lot of our work on the east coast of Florida. We have 10 project sites deployed, 500 structures in the ocean. But now we're expanding throughout the Caribbean and really getting to open up opportunities to provide solutions through countries that are seeing impacts from storms and being able to integrate these solutions with different stakeholders.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm wondering about the modeling that goes along with that, like the partnerships, but also like the reason why I love this so much is my PhD focused around low impact development retrofit. So going into an area and retrofitting things to treat water where it is and to mimic the natural water cycle, allow for infiltration and like biological and physical breakdown of pollutants. But what I did was make it like an artful thing where people understood water's journey without actually, needing any information. And I feel like that's what you're doing with the coral, except I get a lot of pushback because this stuff is already built, like to prioritize something that's not broken, but you're putting stuff in the ocean that it is solving I just feel like there's a lot of opportunities that I didn't think of yet until you said this. Really cool stuff. But yeah, partnerships, modeling. Do you do any of that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I think all of this work, and that's why we formed an alliance. I don't view anyone as competition. I think we can complement each other and build much more impactful projects together. There's so much work to do around the world. We need all hands on deck, literally, and as many people strategically partnering with intention to move forward on initiatives. And we've worked with private industries and a lot of universities that have helped us really model out our structure designs, doing really innovative work. And as you can see on some of the images, doing photogrammetry and side scan sonar and mapping structures with very high resolution to look at growth rates, doing assisted migration of moving corals to the northern part of the reef tract where we can look at the change in their host to cell symbiont ratios and being able to be adaptive in this current climate. And I think that's what excites me the most about some of the work that we do around marine infrastructure is, we do get to be nature's engineering arm and be adaptive in this current climate to place nature where it can be as successful as it can now.
Yeah.
I always say through serving nature, we also serve ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And it is this interconnection. And the more partners that we can bring into the fold that come from different disciplines, the more that we can actually expand the scope of how that impacts different lives and how we can add other solutions. So I always say, we love to take other partners. You want to test something out. We have one of our sites that has shore power. So we can put out acoustic current Doppler profilers and actually map out the hydrodynamic activity and wave reduction and have real metrics to provide, not just clients and municipal agencies, but what these reefs are providing value on coastal protection.
Yeah.
How much growth, benthic and fish recruitment they're getting.
Right.
And also the economic benefit. Who's coming to these reefs, right?
Right.
I think the most rewarding part has really not just been seeing the life and the homes that these structures provide for the fish, but seeing the accessibility it creates to community to get in the water and have a place to connect with nature.
Yeah. So we only have a couple more minutes, but I know a lot of scientists, and you are a scientist, obviously, a lot of scientists are overwhelmed or just intimidated by business, right? And by starting your own business, about entrepreneurship. I know that when I left the federal government last year, I was scared out of my mind. What is some advice that you can give other scientists on how to go about doing this or just overcoming that initial barrier of fear?
I would say, honestly, being authentic and true to yourself. I think knowing your intentions is what matters, right? And people are going to judge you either way. When I first started with the art, I had some of the best scientists that I work with that were like, that is stupid, and what are you doing? That does nothing for the environment. Well, obviously.
I'm also not that surprised.
Obviously, though, obviously that doesn't do something ecologically, but what it does do is create connection.
Yes.
And it helps support all of the restoration we do. And so it doesn't really matter what other people think. If you know and really believe in your heart that what you're set out to do can be achieved, keep on that mission, right? Don't lose sight of that. Don't let other people distract you, and work with people that want to elevate and complement that and keep pushing forward. I think we need to build business models for nature. I think it was such a sticky between nonprofit and for-profit, and we're really coming into convergence.
Yeah.
We have a nonprofit and for-profit now. The for-profit was just started in the last year and a half, but now we'll be constructing our own infrastructure, engineering, and implementing these projects. And the nonprofit comes in with all of the community programs where we do engagement, research, and education. So they work hand in hand, as they should. And I think more scientists need to dip into the for-profit sector proudly, because it also helps support and continue that work. It's necessary. We can't rely on grants,
And it's so hard because that's what we're taught, right? Like I felt like I needed to make mine a nonprofit or I wasn't going to get funding from anywhere. It's hard to wrap your head around.
And I felt the same. I started it as the nonprofit, but realized, well, I had for-profit models in the nonprofit that I was still going with. We mostly did contracts that financed our work. We still got some grants here and there, but I think there's a benefit to both. And there's a way now to really be able to scale things as a for-profit and achieve all of your science initiatives, all of your research. It's just really with strategy. So reach out to a business person, ask their advice, right?
Yeah.
We need more of that cross-disciplinary approach.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. That was great. I think that's great advice.
Thanks for having me, and go Gators.
Go Gators.